Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside the jovial one. Oh, I'm not talking about Santa Claus, but he's even bigger, and he's better, and he's friendlier. Have you been naughty? Have you been nice? I'm talking about the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. Great news! The Wish List event is back. First and foremost, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from the entire McInerney family at Star Lincoln, conveniently located at 12 Mile Road just east of Telegraph in Southfield. Now, given this COVID world we continue to live in, you can shop and buy from home online. StarLincoln.com, online StarLincoln.com. It's that easy. Digital showroom open 24/7. That's right. It's swift, safe, and simple. Call 888-356-1278. That is 888-356-1278. And remember, we feature remote pickup and delivery. Our award-winning service remains by appointment only between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. However, walk-ins for new vehicle sales continue. You can do that from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. I have to tell you, as a Star customer for nearly 2 decades, I have never seen a stronger lineup of new vehicles. StarLincoln.com, StarLincoln.com, or you can call them direct, 248-354-4900. Well, I woke up this morning and I was thinking about you and about a topic that you and I have discussed many, many times, and I've decided I'm going to bring it up one more time. And then we'll kind of put a bow on this box, if you don't mind. But
Sure.
In a startling move that marked the biggest challenge yet to Hollywood's traditional way of doing business, Warner Brothers announced on Thursday that 17 movies, its entire 2021 slate of new movies, would arrive simultaneously in theaters and on its sibling streaming service, the now underperforming HBO Max. Rather than having to wait roughly 90 days, the period that studios have long given theaters to play films exclusively, HBO Max subscribers will receive instant access to big-budget extravaganzas like Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights, Clint Eastwood's Cry Macho, Space Jam, A New Legacy, and a Sopranos prequel called The Many Saints of Newark. You could have starred in that, by the way. Well, Chris Nolan, the famed director, and I won't go through all the movies that he's directed, but he's one of the best out there. He said he went to bed the other night feeling wonderful and he woke up feeling destroyed. Well, his natural complaint was the fact that no, it loses so much just being in your home. You're not getting the full effect. You know exactly where I'm going with this, right? Talking about live streaming masses.
Sure.
And I started thinking about that and the similarities between how comfortable we have gotten during this pandemic, staying home, being alone, not being very socially active, which I think is dangerous, but there's nothing we can do about that. My point is simply this. There's a great comparison between Hollywood right now and what's going on in the Catholic Church and with movie theaters and what's going on with Hollywood. You see the comparison I've drawn there?
Sure.
You remain concerned that people have gotten very comfortable just live streaming Mass, right? To the extent that they could do exactly what Warner Brothers is doing, and that is saying, hey, you've gotten so used to it, we have no choice but to continue to try and service you, so this is how it's going to be done. So it's looking like the New World Order. Do you feel like that's the case with the Catholic Church?
Yeah, something that you just said struck a note in my mind. It's always been done by many of the churches for the people who are not able to come to church. So that part of it is not new. What's new is that the bishops have given a dispensation from the obligation to attend Mass, and now they're kind of walking back a little bit and saying, well, if you could get up and go to the store, you could come to Mass. But that being said, the dispensation will last until February 17th.
Ash Wednesday.
So it'll still be okay. whatever that means. So now the Archbishop is thinking, well, if people are not feeling well, they shouldn't come to church. So that's okay. But the problem is this, that if I'm not obliged to go to Mass on Sunday because the dispensation has been given, I like this. I put on the TV. Mm-hmm. I have a little bit of pancakes with lots of syrup on it. And,
don't forget the butter.
And the butter and so on. And just enjoy Sunday morning.
The coffee's just the right temperature.
But it's something interesting that you said when you made the comparison, and I think it applies to the Catholic Church. It's not the same thing. When you're in a theater and you're in front of the big screen, you're involved in any way, almost every way. And the same thing happens with the church.
That's where I wanted to go. Yep.
Yeah, because what happens is you are participating. You're not just a viewer of some TV show. You're actually participating. You're singing the hymns. You are responding to the prayers. You're receiving the Eucharist. All of these things put together make it a different experience. The experience of the TV is so-so. It goes because at least the people get some sort of mood of prayer and spirituality while they listen to the Mass on TV. But I hear people commenting afterwards, oh, I like seeing the Mass in Boston, or I like seeing the Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral, or I like seeing the Mass at the Basilica at Notre Dame. Well, the thing is this, that it's not the same thing as participating.
Yeah. In other words, what you're saying is that when you go into the church, you have a role in the full production of the Mass. You have an actual participating part. You just get the full effect.
Mass is public worship, which means the group together are very much part of the Mass. So it's not just an individual private devotion. It's a public devotion. So you're there with your brothers and sisters of that community. When you're watching it on TV, it's almost as if you're just an observer off to the side. You're not really into it. Now, some families, and I've spoken to some families, they make a point of it to stop everything.
Yeah.
They even get the words of the hymns so they could join in, and they sing, even in their living room, even if it's only 4 or 5 of them. They sing, they participate as much as they can. But again, it's not 100%. It's not like being there at the church to get the benefit of this public worship. And so this is where I think when we come to February 17th, I think Catholics are going to have to make a serious decision. Are they going to just continue doing what they're doing, or are they going to go to Mass? Don't forget, in my lifetime, and it's 80 years, in my lifetime, such a dispensation was never given. I mean, this is something really exceptional. Granted, we had to do it because of COVID, but by the same token, it is unique. So now we're going to wean ourselves away from the TV as much as possible on February 17th to go back to normal. Well, I don't know if it's going to be so easy.
I really like what you're saying there. February 17th, Ash Wednesday, an important day, standing alone, beginning of Lent, leads up to Easter. Sure. And I think it's a great point that you made that, like, are you in or are you out, okay?
Yeah.
By then, God willing, and it looks like it's going to happen, the vaccine will be in distribution. And given the order that they're suggesting it'll go in, now, you never know. Their timelines are constantly changing. But I think you're right. I think it's time to step up and start thinking about it right now as a Catholic. Are you in? Are you going to make a commitment to be a member of the Catholic Church? I mean, a member of our community, a participating member. Participation, community. I think people are going to have to do that. It may have to come down to the Archbishop or the priests being in Mass, going out by in Mass, I mean, as a group, as an archdiocese, saying, this is it, folks. Are you with us? We'll keep streaming. That's important, but do you like that or not?
Of course I do, but by the same token, the live stream was here before the COVID and afterwards. The thing is this, are people going to say, oh, I'm just too tired, I don't want to go?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Instead of, I'm sick and I can't go, and at least I'll have something on TV.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important, though, if you're not sick, if you can go, let's say by February 17th, the restaurant restrictions have been lifted and you are having elective procedures done. Nobody can see this light at the end of the tunnel and really celebrate it. That's just angry Ken right now.
Sure.
But I like that. I like the idea, me personally. I mean, I think it's something that people are going to have to be accountable to themselves in their hearts and in their souls and say, makes a good point here. It's time for me, Kenny boy. Get off your duff, turn off the TV, and head back to the church.
Yeah, and as they say, we have to treat that live streaming only if it's truly serious.
With the rollout now of the family of parishes, is that going to make anything more difficult, having this situation where you're about to be rolling out the family of parishes, and at the same time, that'll be really probably starting to ramp up right around the same time as the dispensation has been lifted on February 17th? Is there going to be too much calamity going on at the same time within the church?
I think the calamity has been created, and it is very serious because of the COVID. Mm-hmm. And so that even though the two things are coming together, as you say, on February 17th, the full enactment, but really with the families of parishes, it's not really going to settle down until next July. So even though February 17th seems to be a key thing for all of us, I think as far as to what the church is going to experience won't be till next July. And I also have a feeling that most people won't even know that it's going on.
Right.
Because things are not going to change so radically immediately. What might change is this: the churches will coordinate different hours for Mass, so that if you want a 10 o'clock Mass, you could go here. For the 11 o'clock Mass, you could go here, and so on. So even though they still do that today, but they're not always so coordinated.
Right.
For example, I know that there's a 7:30 Mass over at St. Thomas right now, and we have a 7 o'clock Mass at St. Hugo's. So that doesn't work. You go to one or the other.
Yeah.
But they'll coordinate, among the 4 parishes, the hours for Mass. But not just the hours for Mass. They'll coordinate different activities. For example, if there's going to be a guest speaker for the Lenten retreat, it can be for all 4 parishes, so that you don't have to repeat it in the 4 parishes. One parish will host it, but it'll be open to all 4 parishes.
Interesting.
So you have these guest speakers. RCIA, people want to become Catholics. We've already started that. Religious education for kids. It doesn't have to be repeated in every parish. There could be a central location.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that can be done with coordination. For example, I don't think every parish needs a director of music. So there might be one director of music, and that director of music then will compile the different hymns for next Sunday, and that would be distributed to the 4 parishes. And so the organist in those 4 parishes can follow what's recommended, the hymns that are recommended. But liturgy is not just the hymns. Of course, it's Christmas season and all of that. So there doesn't have to be 4 different heads of liturgy. Now, music is going to be different. Now, for example, I have a feeling that where I am, we have 2 full-time musicians who compose. So they're not only directors of music, but they compose. most churches do not have a full-time musician. What they do is they'll hire so-and-so for Sunday at 11 and so-and-so for Saturday night. So a contract worker, okay?
Yeah.
Not a salaried employee.
Sure.
So you don't need 4 salaried employees. You could have a whole bunch of contract workers, and that's not going to change too soon because that's what it is now.
I happened to overhear a discussion just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they were talking about the family of parishes, and this one person was saying to another person, yeah, I was surprised that it wasn't going to be St. Hugo, Holy Name, St. Regis, and I forget what the other one was, and the other person said, no. There's too much wealth in those 4 churches. Those 4 churches will all be the anchor churches within the family of churches. You know what I'm saying? A church like St. Hugo will more or less be the anchor church because that's probably the most productive in terms of financial gain and all of that. But there's a whole lot to this family of parishes, but we still have a lot to pray for, don't we? Let's just...
yeah, we certainly do. And to add to what you were saying, you don't want to create a situation where you have, this is where the poor parishes are, this is where the wealthy parishes are.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have the mixture of parishes that include people of different economic standings, and so that variety is a good thing in a family.
Variety is a very good thing. What do you have in terms of variety for us in your prayer today for us, Father Grimaldi?
Well, I think it's always important to talk about love. Let us pray. Love never fails. Even in the darkest moments, love gives hope. Love compels us to fight against coronavirus alongside our sisters and brothers living in poverty. Love compels us to stand together in prayer with our neighbors near and far. Love compels us to give and act as one. Now it is clear that our futures are bound together more tightly than ever before. As we pray in our individual homes, around the nation and around the world, we are united as one family. So let us pause and find a moment of peace as we lift up our hearts together in prayer. For those watching their entire income stream dry up, for those who have no choice but to go out to work, for those who are afraid to be at home, for those who are more lonely than there ever been, for those who are bereaved and grieving, God be their healer, comfort and protection. Be their strength, shield and provision. Be their security, safety, and close companion. And raise up your church to be your well-washed hands and faithful feet, to be present to the pain, to respond with love in action, even from a safe distance. God, in your mercy, hear our prayers. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
We'd like to remind you to share the Father Joe Podcast with your friends. You can reach Father Joe at frjoepodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us on Facebook or say, Alexa, play the Father Joe Podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time.